So when Larry Fink, CEO of Blackrock, says, hey, I like Bitcoin and I like it a lot, you better be fucking listening, because he sees something. You either play with the players or you get played. I just look at these individuals and I understand their nature. They don't give a fuck about me. Why should they? When you look at that perspective, I'm like, okay, it's player versus player in that sense. They're playing certain games, but simultaneously they also control the news, which means they're playing narratives. So you need to understand how they're playing. And once you open up your eyes, you can see some patterns. And through pattern recognition, you can identify where the world's headed. That's why you can see crypto cycles, ebbs and flows. You can see the ebbs and flows in the markets, and you can understand trends by understanding people, by understanding company, by understanding what they stand for. And you align all these things together and you can make a comprehensive thesis. When you begin to wake up to certain things and how the world works, you begin to think differently. And just by existing, if you are vocal about what you believe or you're vocal about what you see, naturally, you'll share these things. The problem is most people live in a situation whereby they have something to lose. Therefore, they don't speak their mind, or they don't live their truth, because their job's at stake, their reputation is at stake, what is family going to think? So they can't explore other belief systems or other ways of thinking. So they call us crazy, but maybe just an alibi for people's cowardice to, in and of themselves, express how they actually feel, which is why we talk about money and freedom and all these things, because it gives you the ability to express yourself. Because if you don't have resources to be able to tell people, hey, how you feel and live life on your own terms, which is kind of what we've been talking about, then you don't have that freedom. So it's kind of a dual perspective.
What is freedom to you?
Your ability to do what you want, where you want, how you want to, with as least constraints as possible. I don't think there's this concept of absolute freedom unless you're maybe a monarch or a sovereign, that has full rule over a state. But just the ability to do and be and say whatever I want to do.
Before we get into everything, though, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit of an understanding about you, Luke, where you grew up, how it all began.
Come from Argentina, went to the United States at the age of 16. $200 in a suitcase. Like many immigrants, started pressure washing basketball courts, cleaning toilets, worked all sorts of odd jobs, made my way to university. University wasn't for me, ended up leaving, and then started working cubicle jobs. And while I was working those cubicle jobs, I started exploring and being told about different opportunities. So I would wait tables at nighttime. During the day, I would kind of have my normal 9-to-5 job or try to make my way up the ladder. And then I started hearing about making money online. And initially, it was because of the stock market. And I was exploring this thing that was called Robinhood. It had just come out, this new application on your phone that made stock trading fun. So a fellow server was like, hey, have you heard about Bitcoin? I was like, no, I haven't. It's like, oh, let me explore it. And I started doing some research, bought a couple of Bitcoin 2016, and that's where my journey began. That led me to e-commerce, where I learned how to make money online by building stores and selling what people would buy in person online, because I realized where people were spending most of their time, which was on the internet. So logically, you wanted to go where people are instead of kind of focusing on the old model of just retail. So when I started doing e-commerce, it wasn't necessarily popular, but at the same time, there was still taboo factors. So I was like, let me try it. Let me pioneer it. And it did well. We did 8 figures in e-commerce. And then I turned over all of my profits into crypto. That's kind of how I decided to play it, because I understand very much where crypto's going. I understand where Bitcoin is headed. And ever since I started buying Bitcoin at $588, my conviction only grew stronger and stronger, because I've seen it mature. So understanding the nature of this asset class, I put my chips in this asset class known as crypto, and it went extremely well. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I've been able to build a lot of resources and been able to make a lot of money, but I'm missing an ingredient, which is people, right? I need a network. I need people around me that can empower me, that can help me, that can assist me with other things that are just money. Because if money's all you have, then you don't have much. So I was like, let me build a network. So I launched Capital Club, which is my organization right now, where it's focused on building an ecosystem designed for entrepreneurs and helping them, whether it's in connections, whether it's with resources or opportunity, to elevate in their entrepreneurial journey. So it's different aspects of it. And that's pretty much what I'm focused on nowadays. So full-time crypto, full-time making content, and just glitching through the matrix, bro.
How was family life?
Family life is great. Very blessed. My parents, phenomenal people, took care of us. So nothing to complain about. Thankfully, they put me through English school in Argentina, which was fucking ruthless because you would have English school in the morning and then you would have Spanish school in the afternoon. So that was ruthless, but it allowed me to learn my English skills, and here we are today. So shout out to my parents. And then, my girl, phenomenal, been with me for 10 years. And she and I have a great relationship, gives me the freedom, the ability to also travel and work remotely, which is important. So it's great.
How important is it to have a good woman by your side?
2 is always better than 1. And the thing is, what people don't realize is in a relationship, you're not just investing time. You're investing energy and resources into a relationship. A relationship is an investment. So you have to ask yourself, the people that you're spending time with, not just a relationship like a woman, but it can be a relationship in general with friends. It can be with business partners. You're investing time and resources into these things. So the question is, are you going to go the distance? And you want to look for 2 factors when it comes to relationships that you want long-term. One is loyalty and longevity, right? Loyalty is, are they going to stick through you, the tough, and do they have your best intent in mind? And you know where that lies. And then the second one is going to be your longevity. Do people want to go with you far enough? Because if they're short-sighted, but they have good intentions, well, they're not going to necessarily be with you throughout the entire phase. If they want to go the distance, but they're going to cave, right, under pressure, then you don't want that situation. So I'm looking for those characteristics. And when I find those characteristics, I'm like, okay, I'm going to invest my time, my energy, my attention into this person, and we're going to grow together. So 1, it's phenomenal, to have somebody that you grow with, especially, she was driving me my girl used to drive me to work because I didn't have a car. So coming from a place where I had nothing and we built a relationship from that perspective, it also gives me the ability to go back home and not have my guard up of, hey, does this person have certain intentions, or does this person have my best interest? No, because that person's been around for the extended period of time. And I also value these things. So longevity to me is key. Loyalty to me is key. And these 2 collectively, when you find these traits, you want to invest into these people. But for my relationship, it's super key.
How much was crypto when, what was it, 2016, 2018?
2016, 588, 2016. Yeah, and then you had the bull run of 2017, 2018. That was the first bull run where altcoins really took off, where you saw Cardano go from a penny to $1.60, 160x return in the span of a couple weeks. It was madness. But I round-tripped my entire bag during that bull run because, I fell into the entire, hey, everybody hold the bags, follow the revolution. And then we got dumped on by all the venture capital that was playing the game. So you just get smarter through the cycles. This is my 3rd cycle in crypto. So I'm definitely playing the game a little bit different than I used to.
How do you think crypto will be in the next 10 to 20 years?
I think crypto's only evolving. And it's evolving in a positive way. We just saw this week, I think, in fact, yesterday, that the entire kind of bank-to-bank transfers here in England had been completely stopped, right? Because you're dependent on a centralized server and on a centralized system. And if that thing fails, your entire system is compromised. So you now need technology that is decentralized, not decentralizing just opportunity, but decentralize the fact that problems and errors can take place and occur. And if you don't mitigate them, you can't expand. That's why technological advancement is important. When we look at money, money is merely a technological advancement. You look at coinage. When coinage was introduced, it was a better way of bartering, because if you wanted cows and I wanted water, right? What was the middle ground? There wasn't something that we could actually standardize. Precious metal standardized that. But then it was difficult to transport and it was difficult to move. So we moved it to what? Bills. And now we're like, oh, well, we're too lazy with bills. Let me digitalize it. Well, now we're digitalizing it, right? It's the inevitable process in evolution of money. Who's going to be in control of it? So now you have different factions competing for what is going to be the digital money. And it's incredible to watch. So the question is, which digital money are you going to support? Are you going to support a decentralized ledger, a system that belongs to the people, or are you going to support the one that is run by the banks? That's why I basically practice what I preach. I don't keep money in the banks. I keep my money in my own possession, right? I keep my money under my own kind of management. I don't depend on a bank. When you deposit money into a bank, they don't keep it safe. They take that money, they invest it. The entire game is a scam. So once you understand basic financial literacy, you start comprehending these things and you realize all the billionaires and all the rich guys, they have Bitcoin, all of them. From Peter Thiel to Elon Musk to Chamath, like all these guys, they're like, hey, this is good. This is a good thing. Who's saying that it's bad? The fucking government? Biden? Like literally the people that are fucking you up. So you're not going to listen to them. You want to go to where the energy and the intention and the power lies. And the evolution of money is going to be, in my opinion, of the people. So I have to kind of fight for that. And Bitcoin happens to be one of those mediums of exchange, or at least one of the symbols that today we utilize to represent that. Is it going to be the future? Well, I would like to consider it, but Bitcoin can also be co-opted and psyoped by Blackrock. You know, they have infinite liquidity, which means they could pretty much buy a large percentage of the supply and control the price of Bitcoin through the ETF. So I don't know where that lies, but I would like to consider that decentralized money is going to be something extremely important. So that's a brief understanding of what I think about crypto.
What do you think about BlackRock?
I mean, at the end of the day, whoever controls the printers controls the world, and they control the printers. I mean, if you look at who the Federal Reserve goes to and who countries go to in order to get funding or in order to get investment advice, it's BlackRock. And that's just, they're the best player in the game. And it is what it is. You can be mad at it, or you can just realize how they're playing and realize that you're on the same chessboard. So when, Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, says, hey, I like Bitcoin and I like it a lot, you better be fucking listening because he sees something. So you either play with the players or you get played. And I just look at these individuals and I understand their nature. They don't give a fuck about me. Why should they? Like, honestly, they don't know me. So when you look at that perspective, I'm like, okay, it's player versus player in that sense, because they're playing certain games, but simultaneously they also control the news, which means they're playing narratives. So you need to understand how they're playing. And once you open up your eyes, you can see some patterns, and through pattern recognition, you can identify where the world's headed. That's why you can see crypto cycles, ebbs and flows. You can see the ebbs and flows in the markets, and you can understand trends by understanding people, by understanding company, by understanding what they stand for. And you align all these things together and you can make a comprehensive thesis.
When you talk about patterns, what sort of patterns are you talking about? Patterns that's been here for hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years. We look at the thousands of years, the same patterns every 10 years, 20 years, with new plagues, new destruction, new wars, more money, everything's greed. What patterns do you see? Do you see patterns of life, or patterns what's going to happen to then what to invest into, or just patterns of...
Do you want me to give you a crazy pattern?
Yeah, let's go.
I'll give you a crazy pattern that I've basically been deciphering probably over the last year or two. And it has to do with how Central America and South America is taking a new form. So if you look at World War I and World War II, prior to that, we had the Spanish flu, right? And so we have a Spanish flu, we have a swap of currency because we have the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 get introduced. Then we have 2 world wars. And then we have basically this fight against what? Communism, right? We had the fight against drugs, the fight against terror, but back then it was the fight against communism. So what happened? We saw a massive overthrow in South America and the installment of right-wing dictators and right-wing governments like we're seeing now. But the question is why? Now, when you begin to look at how the IMF works, which is the International Monetary Fund, they are what the economic hitman, a book that I read, he used to be one of these jackals for the IMF that would go and do broker deals with governments, loan them money in exchange for what? Resources and assets and collateralized land and things of this nature. So what would take place? A disaster would roll around, natural disaster or planned disaster, either one. Natural coup or planned coup, either one. Point is, something would take place where the government would need money or resources. The IMF would come in and say, hey, here's a relief package. But attached to the relief package, you have stipulation A, B, C, D, massive interest. And obviously, the IMF can never default. They can never default. So what do they have to do? They have to overthrow. So what you do is you take a country into a massive pattern of debt. You can see it in Argentina with left-wing governments taking and basically stealing everything for about 50 years. The country now is in massive debt. And now you have, within 30 days, a right-wing government installed, all the deficits removed, right? So all the debt instantly removed, so that now you can pay back to the IMF the debt. So you're seeing a cycle, a 100-year loop cycle of these big entities that control money and money supply coming into disaster and offering relief, quote unquote. And through that relief, being able to nationalize and control a country, which is crazy. So now you're going to see through South America, pretty much all the countries adopt a right-wing perspective, which initially might become benevolent. It'll be a good kind of transition, but eventually you're going to see a big clasp down of right-wing push to pay off any sort of debts and to nationalize assets. It's taking place. That's why you see the selling off in Argentina, for example, of the Argentine Airlines, which was a nationalized asset, or the YPF, which is the gas station that belonged to the government. They're selling all these things to private companies, which is fine. But the point is, these are different patterns that when you begin to realize, you can identify. So now Argentina is a great investment opportunity because they're about to be in surplus. They're about to start making money again. Is it risky? Yeah, but is it a 10-year play, 20-year play? For sure.